My name's David and today we're going to be discussing shutter speed. What is shutter speed and how does it relate to the exposure triangle? I thought when I decided to do a video on the exposure triangle, I would break it down and do a video on each individual component of it. Now that is shutter speed, aperture that you'll know in f-stops, or you may have heard that, and ISO. So today I'm going to be doing shutter speed. What is shutter speed? How does it work? How is it relevant to us as photographers? Well, each individual component of the exposure triangle, if you think about it like this, is a source of light, a way of getting light into the camera or denying the camera of light for various different reasons. Now, shutter speed, basically, what shutter speed is how fast the camera will fire. Now, you may see shutter speed go up to 1/100, 1/125, 1/250, 1/1000 maybe. Now, the higher the number, the faster the shutter speed. And the reason for that, if we've got, let's say, a sporting event, I'm photographing a football match, or I'm photographing the Formula One fast cars, I'm photographing the dog in the garden or the kids playing outside. Whatever I'm photographing, if it's a fast moving object, like your eyes when they blink, if you blink really fast and imagine taking a photograph when you blink really fast, you capture that moment in time. Now, the quicker your shutter speed fires, the more accurate it will capture a small piece of time. So if something's going really fast past me and I capture it really quickly, then I'm capturing all the detail of that motion. Now, here's the problem with that. What I'm doing, the higher I raise my shutter speed, is I'm denying the camera of light. So the more my shutter speed is up, the darker it's not letting in the light, because it's flash, and it's not letting in, grabbing that light from the light source, whatever that may be. Now, if the opposite, I bring my shutter speed down. So let's say I have my shutter speed 1 second, 2 seconds. Sometimes you can have your shutter speed to whatever you want, 5 minutes, but we'll talk about that in another tutorial. Of course, my shutter speed is open for longer. And what that's doing is letting in lots more light. The reason why I would do that is there's many reasons. One of the reasons, if I was shooting a shot and there's dim light outside, it's early evening and I'm taking a photograph, then of course I would have my shutter speed down really low. I want to get that light in there. If I'm taking a photograph of something that's still and it's not moving, an object, for example, that's not moving, it doesn't matter where I have my shutter speed. I can have my shutter speed fast, I can have my shutter speed slow, it doesn't matter. What you do need to realise with your shutter speed is, if you've got your shutter speed down quite low, that's when you're going to start needing a tripod for your camera, because you get what's known as camera shake. Now, the general rule of thumb is what your focal length is, and this is only a tip from me really, whatever your focal length is. So, for example, I've got a lens on here now, and it's a 50 millimeter lens. So for a 50 millimeter lens, I want my shutter speed at 1/50, the lowest, absolute lowest. I want this shutter speed before I put it on a tripod, because you get what's known as camera shake. So if it's opening a long time, your shutter, you can't. It's very sensitive to what the camera's doing. Now, another thing you can use shutter speed for is long exposure shots, which you may have seen them. Now, a long exposure shot, let's say you've got cars going down the road at night and you've seen the streams of lights that line all the way down the street from their lights. That's a long exposure shot, because the lower your shutter speed, the more you're recording movement, and the more blurred it will be because it's opening and that's recording the movement at a slower rate. So you'll get movement. If I move my arms like this and I put my shutter speed on a second, you would see traces of my arms coming off my arms, and that's an effect that some people go to do that on purpose, but I'll cover that in another video. So essentially, what is shutter speed? Shutter speed is a form of light, a way of getting light into the camera. So a fast shutter speed, you're picking up the detail of something that's moving fast. A slow shutter speed, and you're letting in more light. Fast shutter speed, less light. Slow shutter speed, you're letting in more light. The most important thing, I think, really, for beginners is just remember that whatever your focal length is, and it goes up to 1.5 times with the longer the lens that you have. So 50mm lens, the minimum I want to be setting my shutter speed is 1/50. 100mm lens, the minimum I want to be setting it is 1/100. Now, when you get to say a 200mm lens, a 300mm lens, if I've got that extended, a 300mm lens to 300mm, I'd probably want it on a tripod anyway for a lens of that length, but I really want to be pumping that up to 1.5 times. So 300 and 450, 1/450. If I've got a 300mm lens and I've got it extended to 300mm, I don't want to be taking my shutter speed to less than 1/450 without putting it on a tripod. And like I said before, of course, if you've got it on a tripod, it doesn't matter. You can have it on whatever you like. But remember, it's all about the amount of light that we're getting into the camera. The next video that I'm going to do is going to be a video talking about aperture. I will explain that. Then I will explain how the ISO works in another video. And then a final video on the exposure triangle. I should be putting them all together, and hopefully you'll know by then what each component does individually, and hopefully that'll help.